It happened on a night I wasn't supposed to remember, but I never forgot. I was 19, still figuring out who I was, when she leaned in under the dim lights of the campus courtyard and kissed me like she already knew the parts of myself I hadn't learned to love yet. It wasn't planned. It wasn't a dare. It was real, too real. That one kiss shattered everything I thought I knew about who I was, who I could love, and what it meant to feel truly seen. I used to think college was just about classes and grades. But that night, under the sound of rain and laughter, I realized it was about something much deeper, about identity, courage, and the risk of following your heart, even when it scares you. Because after that kiss, nothing felt the same. The way I looked at her, the way she looked back, the silence that followed, it all carried a meaning that neither of us could put into words. Before I tell you what happened next, make sure you subscribe to the channel, give this video a like, and turn on notifications. Because this story isn't just about a kiss, it's about what that kiss awakened and how two women discovered that sometimes the moment you stop pretending is the moment your real life begins. I never thought something as simple as a kiss could rewrite my life. Back then, I was just another freshman trying to survive dorm life, cafeteria food, and the overwhelming feeling of being completely average. My name's Emily Reed, and I had just started my first semester at Boston State University. Everything felt new, fast, and slightly terrifying. Between lectures, part-time work at the campus library, and pretending I had my life together, love, or even attraction, was the last thing on my mind. Until her. Her name was Olivia Torres. She was a year older, a literature major with a voice that could silence a room and eyes that saw everything. She wasn't loud or overly confident, but she had this quiet kind of strength, the kind that draws you in without trying. I first saw her at the campus cafe, sitting alone with a copy of The Bell Jar, her long, dark hair falling across her face as she wrote in the margins. Something about her intrigued me. I didn't understand it then, but I couldn't look away. Every time I passed by that cafe, I found myself slowing down, pretending to check my phone, just to see if she was there. Most days she was, always alone, always writing. One Friday afternoon, fate or maybe just coincidence brought us face to face. The cafe was packed, and the only empty seat was across from her. I hesitated, clutching my coffee, but she looked up and smiled. "You can sit if you want. I don't bite." Her tone was teasing, but her eyes were kind. I sat down, trying to act like it was no big deal, though my heart was racing for reasons I didn't understand. "Emily, right?" she asked. I blinked. "Yeah, how did you—" She laughed softly. "You work at the library. You helped me find a book last week. You seemed pretty focused." I felt my face flush. I guess I was. That was the start of it. Over the next few weeks, we talked more, sometimes at the cafe, sometimes when she stopped by the library. Our conversations weren't forced. She asked questions that no one else did, about what I wanted, what I feared, why I hesitated when I spoke about home. She listened like every word mattered, and that was new to me. One evening, after a long shift, she invited me to a small poetry reading in a bar near campus. I wasn't much for poetry, but she smiled that easy smile of hers and said, "Come on, you'll like it." I promise. I went. The bar was dimly lit, filled with students and professors nursing cheap wine and snapping fingers instead of clapping. We sat near the back, sharing a candle-lit table that barely fit our drinks. She read one of her own poems that night. It was about longing, about finding someone who feels like a mirror you're not ready to look into. Her voice trembled in the beginning, then grew stronger. When she finished, everyone clapped softly, but I couldn't move. I just stared at her, realizing that her words had reached somewhere inside me I didn't even know existed. Afterward, we walked outside. It was raining lightly, the air cool and heavy with the smell of wet pavement. We shared her umbrella, shoulders touching, as we walked down the empty street. "You were amazing," I said. She laughed quietly. I was terrified. "You didn't seem like it," she glanced at me. "That's because you were watching." Made me brave. I froze for a second, unsure what to say. There was a flicker of something between us, something unspoken, fragile, and dangerously alive. We kept walking until we reached the old stone archway near the arts building. The rain had turned into a drizzle. Olivia stopped, looked at me, and for the first time I couldn't read her expression. "Emily," she said softly, "can I ask you something?" "Of course. Have you ever kissed someone and felt like your whole life shifted in that second?" Her question hit me like thunder. I shook my head slowly. "No, I haven't," she smiled faintly. "Then maybe you just haven't met the right person yet." Before I could respond, she stepped closer. The space between us dissolved, our hands brushed, our breath mingled, and then she kissed me. It wasn't like the movies. It wasn't perfect or rehearsed. It was real, warm, uncertain, full of questions we were both too scared to ask. For a moment, the world disappeared. There was no rain, no street noise, no college pressure, just the sound of my heart hammering in my chest and the taste of her lips. When she finally pulled back, I stood there stunned, rain clinging to my hair, her hand still lightly touching my cheek. "I'm sorry," she said quickly, stepping back. "I shouldn't have—" "Don't," I interrupted. "Don't apologize." She looked at me, surprised. "You're not upset?" "I don't know what I am," I admitted. My voice shook, but I didn't hate it. That made her smile. A small, sad smile that made me want to understand everything about her. We stood there for a long time, neither of us moving, both trying to process what had just happened. Finally, she exhaled and said, "We should probably get out of the rain." The walk back to campus was silent. Every step felt heavier, like we'd crossed an invisible line we couldn't uncross. When we reached my dorm, she stopped at the entrance. "Emily," she said quietly, "if that meant something to you, we should talk." "But not here." "Not tonight," I nodded. "Okay." She gave me one last look, then turned and walked away into the fog. That night, I lay in bed staring at the ceiling, my mind replaying everything, the sound of her voice, the rain, the kiss. I kept touching my lips, half expecting the feeling to fade. It didn't. I didn't sleep. I just kept thinking about how something so unexpected could feel so right, and how terrified I was of what it meant. Because deep down, I knew this wasn't just curiosity. It was the start of something that would change everything, and I didn't know if I was ready for it. Cliffhanger. The next morning, as I walked into the library, she was already there, waiting for me, eyes serious, like she'd made a decision that would change both our lives. The next morning, I arrived at the library earlier than usual. My heart was still pounding from the night before. I barely slept. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw Olivia's face in the rain, the way her hair clung to her skin, the softness of her lips, and the look in her eyes right after she kissed me. I told myself it was just confusion, just an impulsive moment between two people caught up in something they didn't understand. But that lie didn't last long. She was already there when I walked in, sitting at our usual corner table by the window, a half-empty coffee cup in front of her, flipping through a book she clearly wasn't reading. When she saw me, she stood up immediately, as if she'd been waiting all morning. "Hey," she said, her voice low. "Hey," I replied, trying to sound normal. Though my voice betrayed me, she gestured to the empty chair. "Can we talk?" I nodded. My stomach churned as I sat down. For a few seconds, the silence between us was unbearable. I could hear the soft rustle of pages from other students, the hum of the coffee machine, the faint rain still tapping against the windows. Then she finally spoke, about last night. My throat tightened. "Yeah, I didn't mean to make things weird," she said quickly. "I wasn't thinking clearly, I don't know what came over me." The words hit me like a cold splash of water. I tried to smile, but it came out crooked. "So it was a mistake?" She looked down at her hands, fiddling with her coffee sleeve. "No," she said softly. "That's the problem." It didn't feel like one. I felt something shift inside me. Relief and fear tangled together. "Then what are we supposed to do now?" "I don't know," she admitted, meeting my eyes. "I just know I haven't stopped thinking about it." "About you." Her words sent a rush through me, equal parts panic and desire. I looked away, staring out the rain-streaked window. "This is crazy." "You barely know me." "I know enough," she said. I know you're the first person I've wanted to kiss in a long time. I didn't have a response. My heart was racing, and the world suddenly felt too loud, too bright. The library, the one place that had always felt safe, now felt like the center of something dangerous. Olivia leaned forward slightly, her voice almost trembling. Did you think about it too? I swallowed hard. All night. Her lips curved just slightly, a flicker of a smile before fading again. Then maybe we shouldn't run from it. I wanted to believe that, but everything in me screamed caution. I had spent my whole life following rules, being the reliable daughter, the quiet student, the one who never broke expectations. And yet, sitting across from her, those rules suddenly felt meaningless. Before I could say anything, the library door opened and a group of students entered, laughing loudly. The noise snapped the spell. Olivia straightened, her expression closing off. Maybe we should go somewhere else, she said. We ended up walking across campus in silence. The rain had stopped, leaving the air cool and heavy, with the scent of wet earth. She led us to the art building, a place I rarely went. Inside, the hallways were quiet, lined with paintings and sculptures from student exhibits. She stopped in front of an empty classroom and pushed the door open. It was dimly lit, the windows fogged, the smell of paint lingering in the air. She turned to me, eyes uncertain but filled with something deep and raw. I don't want to pretend last night didn't happen, she said. But I also don't want to scare you away. I stepped closer, feeling my pulse in my throat. You're not scaring me, I said. I'm just trying to understand what this means. She took a deep breath. It means I like you, Emily, more than I expected to. And I know that's complicated. Complicated? I laughed softly, shaking my head. That's an understatement. She smiled faintly. Yeah, but sometimes the complicated things are the ones that matter most. The room felt smaller suddenly. My chest tightened as she moved closer. Her fingers brushed my arm just barely, but the touch set every nerve on fire. I didn't pull away. Do you regret it? She asked quietly. I hesitated. No, do you? Her eyes softened. Not even for a second. Something inside me broke open then. The fear, the hesitation, the part of me that always overthought everything. I reached out and took her hand. It felt strange and familiar all at once. I don't know what this is, I admitted. But I don't want it to just disappear. Her grip tightened slightly. Then don't let it. We stood there for a moment, neither moving, just breathing in the tension that filled the air. Outside, the clouds began to part, letting in faint streams of light. She brushed a strand of hair from my face, her fingers lingering against my skin. You're trembling, she said softly. So are you, I replied. She smiled, a real one this time, warm and honest. Guess that makes us even. We both laughed quietly, but underneath it was something deeper, an acknowledgement of what was happening between us. Then suddenly, there was a knock on the door. We both froze. Olivia stepped back quickly as a man's voice called out, Liv, you in there? My stomach dropped. Yeah, she called back, clearing her throat. Just cleaning up some materials. It was one of her professors. He peeked inside, glancing between us. Didn't mean to interrupt, he said with a polite smile. Just locking up for the evening soon. No problem, Professor, Olivia replied smoothly. We were just leaving. When he walked away, I exhaled a shaky breath. That was close, she nodded, eyes meeting mine. Too close. We both knew what that meant. Whatever this was, it wasn't going to be easy. There were eyes everywhere, expectations, assumptions, and neither of us was ready to explain. As we walked back outside, the sun finally broke through the clouds, painting the wet pavement in gold. Olivia turned to me, her expression unreadable. Emily, she said softly, if we keep going down this road, people will talk. They'll judge. I know, I said. But right now, I don't care. Her lips parted slightly, as if she wanted to say something more, but she didn't. She just nodded, that same quiet smile returning. Then I guess, she said, we're in this together. And as we walked side by side through the sunlight breaking over campus, I realized that something irreversible had begun, but I also knew it wouldn't stay hidden for long. When I read those 4 words, I saw you with her, my stomach twisted. The message glowed on my phone screen like a secret I didn't know how to protect. I stared at it for minutes, frozen in my dorm room, trying to steady my breathing. My roommate Amber was asleep in the next bed, headphones in, completely unaware that my entire world had just tilted. Who had sent it? A classmate? Someone from the library? It could have been anyone. Olivia and I hadn't done anything in public, not really. But maybe that look we shared, that invisible electricity between us, had been too obvious. Maybe people saw more than we thought. I didn't reply. I just turned my phone face down, crawled into bed, and stared at the ceiling until the grey light of morning crept through the blinds. I told myself I'd forget it, but the truth sat heavy in my chest. By the time I made it to campus, Olivia was already waiting near the literature building. She smiled when she saw me, but the moment I got closer, she frowned. "You okay?" she asked. I nodded too quickly. "Yeah, just tired." She studied me for a second, clearly not buying it. "You're lying," she said softly. "I can tell," I sighed, pulling out my phone. "I got this last night." She read the text, her expression tightening. "Do you know who sent it?" "No," she exhaled slowly, glancing around even though no one was near. "Could just be someone trying to mess with you." "Or someone who actually saw," I said quietly, her jaw clenched. "Look, we didn't do anything wrong, we talked. That's all." "Yeah, but people see what they want to see," I said, my voice trembling. Olivia rubbed her temple. "Okay, don't respond to it. Don't delete it either, just let it go for now." But I couldn't let it go. Every time I felt my phone buzz, my pulse spiked. Every time someone looked my way for half a second too long, I wondered if they knew. That day dragged on like a nightmare. During my afternoon lecture, I couldn't focus. The professor's voice faded into a blur as I kept replaying the night of the kiss. The message, the way Olivia had looked at me that morning, calm on the outside. But I knew her too well by now to miss the fear behind her eyes. After class, I walked out into the courtyard, desperate for air. That's when I heard a voice behind me. Emily, it was Olivia. She looked exhausted. Her hair was tied up messily, her sweater damp from the drizzle. "I think we should talk." I hesitated. "About the message?" She nodded. "And about us?" We ended up in the student art building again, the only place that felt private enough. The same dim room, the faint smell of paint. But this time, everything felt heavier. She closed the door behind us and leaned against it. "I've been thinking," she said quietly, "about what we're doing, about what this could turn into." My heart sank. "You're scared." "I'm realistic," she said. "Emily, this isn't high school gossip. If people start talking, it could affect us both. You've got your whole future ahead of you. I'm a senior. I've worked too hard to let some rumor destroy everything. So what are you saying?" I asked. She hesitated, then stepped closer. "I'm saying we have to be careful. Really careful. That means no one can know. Not your friends, not anyone." I looked at her, trying to steady my voice. "You make it sound like something to be ashamed of." Her eyes softened. "It's not about shame. It's about protection." I wanted to believe her, but part of me wondered if she was protecting her future or her feelings. I turned away, walking to the window. The rain had stopped, leaving the glass streaked with silver lines. "I don't know if I can pretend this is nothing." "It's not nothing," she said quickly. "Don't think for a second it is. But it's also not something I can explain to the world right now." Her honesty cut through me. She walked up behind me, her reflection appearing beside mine in the glass. "I didn't plan this, Emily," she said softly. "You just happened." I closed my eyes, trying not to cry. "You make it sound like a problem." She reached out, turning me to face her. "It's not a problem," she said. "It's just complicated." The way she said it, that mix of fear and longing, broke me open. I could see it in her eyes. She wanted this as much as I did. But we were both trapped by what might happen if anyone found out. For a long moment, neither of us spoke. Then she brushed a thumb across my cheek. "I'm sorry," she whispered, "for the message, for everything. I don't want you to be scared." I looked at her, voice trembling. "Then don't push me away." Her hand fell to her side, but she didn't step back. "I'm trying not to," she said, "but I'm not sure how to do this." "I don't either," I said. "But I know I don't want to stop." Her eyes met mine. Something in them shifted, in a quiet resolve. She took a small step forward, her breath warm against my skin. "Then we don't stop," she said softly. We just keep it between us, I nodded. Okay. We stayed there inches apart until the world outside disappeared again. When she kissed me this time, it was slower, not rushed or uncertain like before. It was a promise, even if we didn't know what kind. But as her lips lingered on mine, a sound broke the stillness. The faint creak of the door handle. We froze. The door opened halfway and someone's voice said, "Oh, sorry. Didn't know anyone was in here." A student holding a sketchbook blinked at us. We had already pulled apart, but it was too late. The look on his face said everything. "It's fine," Olivia said quickly, her voice calm, though I saw her hand trembling. "We were just talking," he nodded awkwardly. "Right, sure." Then he stepped out, the door clicking shut behind him. My pulse thundered. "He saw," I said. "Maybe not enough," she said, her voice shaking slightly now. We both knew that was a lie. By the time I got back to my dorm, my phone was already lighting up with a new message. This one wasn't anonymous. It was from Amber. "Hey, people are talking. Is it true?" I stared at the screen, my throat closing. My secret wasn't a secret anymore, and I didn't know if Olivia was ready to face it. The next morning, I woke up to a silence that felt wrong. My phone was filled with unread messages, from classmates, from Amber, from people I barely even talked to. The rumors had spread faster than I ever could have imagined. My name and Olivia's were being whispered in hallways, screenshotted in group chats, dissected like gossip instead of a secret that could break us both. I didn't need to open every message to know what they said. I'd seen this kind of thing before, not here, not with me, but with others, and I'd always thought I'd be strong enough to ignore it. But it's different when your name is the one being dragged into the open. The worst part wasn't the gossip. It was that Olivia was gone. Her phone went straight to voicemail. I texted her again and again. "Are you okay? Please call me. We need to talk." Nothing. By noon, I couldn't take it anymore. I left campus and went to the art building, hoping maybe she was there. The classroom where we'd met so many times before was empty. Her things were gone. The old paint-stained tote bag she always carried, the coffee cup with her name scribbled in pen, even her sketchbook that used to sit forgotten in the corner. It was like she'd erased herself. I asked around. No one knew anything, or maybe no one wanted to tell me. One of her friends finally shrugged and said she probably went home for a while. People have been saying things that stung more than I expected. She had left without even saying goodbye. The next few days blurred together. I went to class, but I didn't listen. I went to the library, but I didn't read. Every time I passed a group of students laughing, I wondered if it was about me. The shame wasn't because of what happened. I didn't regret Olivia. Not for a second. The shame came from how cruel people could be when they didn't understand something real. On the third day, Amber cornered me in our dorm. "Emily," she said gently, "you can't keep pretending nothing happened." I looked up from my desk, exhausted. "What do you want me to say?" "The truth," she said. "About her. About what's going on." I hesitated. Amber wasn't judgmental. At least I didn't think she was. But I'd been burned enough already. "You wouldn't understand," I said quietly. She sat on the edge of my bed, crossing her arms. "Try me." For a long moment I didn't speak. Then finally I whispered, "I didn't plan it. It just happened, and it meant something." Amber's expression softened. "I figured," she said. "You don't look like someone who did something wrong. You look like someone who's scared." I let out a shaky breath. "Everyone's talking. They'll stop," she said. "They always do. People move on to the next thing. But if she's gone, you need to take care of yourself." That night I sat by my window, looking out at the lights of the city. I thought about Olivia's laugh, her steady voice, the way she always tucked her hair behind her ear when she was nervous. I thought about that first kiss, the one that changed everything, and how I never imagined it would end with her disappearing. The next morning I couldn't take the not knowing anymore. I went to the student office and asked if she'd dropped out. The woman behind the counter checked her computer and frowned. "Olivia Torres? She's taken a leave of absence for personal reasons. That's all I can tell you. Do you know where she went?" I asked, my voice trembling. "I'm sorry, honey," the woman said gently. "That's confidential." I thanked her and left, feeling hollow. Days turned into a week. Then 2. Life on campus moved on, classes, exams, coffee runs, as if nothing had happened. But for me, every hallway felt emptier, every day quieter. It wasn't just about losing her presence. It was about losing the piece of myself that had come alive when she looked at me. One afternoon, I found myself back at the cafe where we first met. It was late, almost closing time. The same seat by the window, the same smell of roasted coffee and rain. I ordered her favorite drink, vanilla latte with oat milk, and sat there, staring at the empty chair across from me. I almost didn't notice the envelope until the barista called my name. "Hey, Emily, someone left this for you earlier." It was a plain white envelope with my name written in Olivia's handwriting. My hands shook as I opened it. Inside was a single sheet of paper. "Emily, I'm sorry for leaving without saying goodbye. I didn't know how to face everything. Not you, not the rumors, not the noise. I thought I was strong enough to handle it, but I was wrong. What happened between us was real. Please never doubt that. You showed me something I didn't even know I was looking for. Honesty, warmth, courage. But right now, I have to step away before I lose myself completely. This world isn't kind to people like us, and I'm still learning how to be brave. Maybe one day, when things are quieter, I'll find my way back to you. But until then, please don't wait for me. Live your life, and don't hide the parts that make you who you are. You deserve the freedom I'm still trying to find." Olivia, I sat there for a long time, the paper trembling in my hands. People came and went, cups clattered, doors opened and closed, but I didn't move. Her words felt final, like a door quietly closing on a chapter I wasn't ready to end. When I finally left, it was raining again. I walked without an umbrella, letting the water soak through my hair and clothes. I didn't care anymore. Every drop felt like a release of the fear, the anger, the ache. That night I read her letter again before bed. The sadness was still there, but beneath it, something else had begun to grow. A spark of understanding. Maybe this wasn't the end of us. Maybe it was the beginning of me. Because for the first time in my life, I wasn't ashamed of what I felt. I wasn't confused. I was in love, deeply, painfully, beautifully in love. And even if she was gone, that truth would stay with me. Still, I couldn't shake the feeling that this wasn't over. The message came just after sunrise. I read it 3 times, my heart racing harder each time. "If you want to know where she went, meet me tonight at the cafe." For a moment, I thought it was a joke. Another cruel prank from someone who'd heard too much and understood too little. But something about it, the calm tone, the precision of the words, felt real. I didn't recognize the number. It wasn't Olivia's, but it didn't feel random either. I spent the entire day restless. My classes blurred into background noise. I didn't tell Amber or anyone else. I didn't want to hear another "be careful" or "forget about her." I couldn't. I wasn't ready to let her go. Not yet. As the sun sank behind the buildings, I walked toward the cafe where Olivia and I had first talked, where she'd left me that letter that tore my heart in half. The air was cool and smelled of rain again. Everything in this story seemed to begin and end in the rain. Inside, the cafe was nearly empty. The barista gave me a small nod, recognizing me, and I found a seat near the window, the same one as before. I watched the door, every chime of the bell making my stomach clench. 10 minutes passed, then 20. Then finally someone stepped in. It wasn't Olivia, it was her friend, Maya, a tall girl with auburn hair and sharp green eyes who'd been in some of our classes. I'd seen her once or twice with Olivia around campus, always laughing, always confident. But now she looked tense, cautious. "Emily?" she asked. I nodded slowly. "You sent the message." She sat across from me, glancing around before speaking. "I did. I wasn't sure if you'd come." I swallowed hard. "Where is she?" Maya hesitated, her fingers tightening around her coffee cup. "She's with her sister. She left town, went back home for a while. Why didn't she tell me herself?" I asked, voice shaking. "She wanted to," Maya said quietly. "But she thought if she saw you again, she wouldn't leave. She was falling apart after everything that happened." My throat tightened. "She didn't have to go through it alone. She didn't want to drag you into it," Maya said. "The rumors got worse after she left. Someone leaked pictures. Nothing inappropriate, just You two walking together. But people twisted it. She was scared it would destroy your reputation too. I felt the anger rise inside me, not at Olivia, but at the small-minded cruelty of the world around us. It already did, I said. But I don't care anymore. Maya studied me for a moment, then sighed. She told me you'd say that. What? That you'd rather face it all than let her go, Maya said. She asked me to make sure you're okay, and to give you this. She pulled a folded note from her jacket and slid it across the table. My hands trembled as I opened it. Emily, I know you probably hate me for leaving without a word, but please believe this wasn't goodbye. I needed space to breathe, to think, to stop running from the fear that's ruled me my whole life. You made me see that love doesn't have to be hidden, that maybe it's worth the risk. But I wasn't ready to fight yet. I need to find that strength before I come back. If you still think of me, look at the place where we first saw the sun break through the rain. I'll be there when I'm ready. Oh, I read it twice, maybe 3 times. The rain, the sunlight, I knew exactly where she meant. The small courtyard between the art building and the library, where we'd stood that morning after our first real conversation. I looked up at Maya. Did she say when? She shook her head. No, but if I know her, she meant it. She always does. We talked for a while longer quietly, like 2 people trying to piece together the memory of someone who wasn't gone, but wasn't here either. When Maya left, she squeezed my shoulder gently and said, "Don't lose hope." I stayed in the cafe for another hour, staring at the note, tracing the shape of Olivia's handwriting with my thumb. The world outside blurred, headlights, reflections, silhouettes moving through the rain. Then I got up and walked. The night was cold, the pavement slick, but I followed my instincts straight to that courtyard. It was almost midnight when I got there. The lamps cast a soft glow across the wet bricks, and the sound of dripping water echoed through the empty space. I stood where we had once stood, where sunlight had spilled across the stones weeks ago. Now there was only moonlight, faint, silver, fragile. For a long time I said nothing. I just breathed, listening to the quiet, half expecting her to step out of the shadows. She didn't, but somehow I felt her presence, in the air, in the memory of her touch, in the ache that had become a part of me. I sat on the cold stone bench and took out her note again. I thought about everything that had happened, the confusion, the fear, the longing, the courage it took just to admit the truth. And I realized something I hadn't before. Love doesn't always arrive to stay. Sometimes it comes to awaken something inside us, something we didn't even know existed. Olivia had done that for me. She'd broken open a door I'd kept locked my whole life. And even if she never came back, that door would never close again. For the first time in weeks, I smiled. Not because I wasn't hurting, but because I understood now. When I finally got up to leave, I turned one last time toward the courtyard. The rain had stopped again, and the moonlight was brighter now, glinting off the puddles like scattered stars, and then for just a second, I thought I saw her, a shadow moving at the edge of the walkway, the familiar curve of her shoulders, the way she tucked her hair behind her ear. "Olivia?" I called softly, but there was no answer, only the quiet sound of the wind and the faint smell of coffee and rain. Maybe it was just my mind playing tricks. Or maybe, just maybe, she had come back, if only for a moment, to let me know I wasn't alone. Either way, I walked away that night knowing I had found something rare, something that didn't need labels or approval or promises. It was real. It was mine. And it changed me forever. Sometimes the people who walk into our lives unexpectedly are the ones who teach us who we really are. Love doesn't always follow the rules, and it doesn't always last forever. But that doesn't make it any less true. If this story made you feel something, take a moment to reflect. Have you ever walked away from something real because you were afraid of what others might say? And if so, would you do it differently now? Don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications to hear more stories like this. Stories about courage, love, and the moments that change everything.